Okay, so good morning. My name is Lama Jigme. I'm the non-sectarian monk, teacher, healer, and tantrika who blends the practices of Buddhism and Taoism, Sutra and Tantra, Mahayana, and Theravada. This is, as you can tell by the video quality, this video is being shot in the middle of a class. A student asked a very good question. She wanted to know if the Shaolin monks in China practice Taoism or Buddhism or a blend of two. So I'm going to catch you up to speed. The Shaolin monks are a great example that people can athletically thrive on intermittent fasting, excuse me, while also eating a plant-based diet. So boys, well done. Now, when it comes to Buddhism, they do work with the traditional Chinese Mahayana liturgy. They chant that twice daily, in the morning and the evening, although the evening is more like the late afternoon, but you get the basic idea. And then usually after the chanting, they'll sit in silent meditation, typically. And there's a lot of latitude for their practice. Some monks will sit in Chan, and they'll either follow just the breath, or they'll follow the mind, 9 times out of 10. Or they may do a Pure Land practice where they recite or invoke Buddha Amitabha. Or they might combine Shan and Pure Land, and on the in-breath ask who is reciting the Buddha's name. On the out-breath, verbally or mentally recites Buddha Amitabha, either in Sanskrit or in some dialect of Chinese. Some will do the same thing with another Buddha. Oh, one moment. Let's see here. Okay, there's something wonky in my smartphone. Some will do that with Kuan Yin or another Buddha. Now, the question remains, but are they Taoist or Buddhist or practicing a combination of the two? Well, here's something fun to consider. Whether we're looking at the Bonpas of Tibet, the quote-unquote pagans in Rome, or the Taoists of China. When an emperor or a king says, guess what, we're now Christians, or we're now Buddhists, a lot of people will say, well, screw you, I'm going to keep practicing what I'm practicing, I'm just going to shift my nomenclature, my terminology, my labels, but still keep everything the same. That's what some Bonpas did, that's what's in Tibet, that's what some pagans did in the Roman Empire, and that's what some Taoists did in China. Now, everyone's up to speed. What is the single common denominator of all spiritual systems? They are full of people, and people can be shitheads. So some people are just dumb as dirt, and they'll just practice whatever they're taught without giving it a second thought, without noticing the results, or studying the scriptures, or the Shastras, or the Tantras. They'll just do what they're told and ignore the results. Bless their hearts, that's not what Buddha said. Buddha said the only way we know which teacher or which teaching to rely upon is based upon the results that we get, the karma that we generate from doing the practice. Causality. If we like the results, we persist in it. If we don't like the results, we find something else. We're never scared of getting better results by trying new techniques. But we always evaluate things first and foremost by the results they give us. Having said that, some people may be practicing a blend of Taoism and Buddhism without knowing it. Now, if you practice without intention, it's not an empowered practice. That's why I teach Lam Rim before I teach Cha Chen. That's why I teach Buddhist philosophical contemplations before I teach tantric technical contemplations. What I mean by philosophical contemplations, the philosophy of renunciation, philosophy of compassion, philosophy of love, the philosophy of sensual wisdom, of logical wisdom, of non-dual wisdom. These are philosophical contemplations. Then we get to the, what's it called? The tantric technologies of working with either the Taoist technologies of working with our lower abdomen, of working with our small circuit or our large circuit, or of working with various types of awareness and bringing qi into various parts of the body and giving love via smiling through to different places in the body. Those are technical things. Alright, the Buddhist Tantra, the Buddhist technologies, working with our central channel, working with our inner fire, generating bliss at our crown, generating bliss at our sex tip, generating bliss at our sexual root, using the rainbow yogas to explore the union of compassion and interdependence as well as impermanence and interconnection, to use the death preparation yogas or the gratitude yogas, not just from a philosophical point of view, but from a technical point of view as well. And Dzogchen, although it's called Tantra, really is a philosophical system, or perhaps a blend of the two. So when I teach that, I always teach it with as much background as I can so people can practice intelligently. Not just because some guy with some cool threads and a bitchin' haircut told him to do it, but because it makes sense, and first and foremost, because it gives them great results. So in any spiritual tradition, when we're told to do something just because we're told to do it, just because the man in charge said to do it, just because everyone else does it, that's a lousy reason to practice. So there's lots of boneheaded Taoists who think they're Taoists. There's lots of boneheaded Buddhists who think they're Buddhists. There's lots of boneheaded Buddhists who are really Taoists, but not because they're boneheaded, and vice versa. There's lots and lots of confusion. So here's the thing. If we're going to practice Buddhism, we have to do so with at least an awareness of the Four Noble Truths. What are the Four Noble Truths? Well, I don't know about you, but I have a memory disorder, so I have a trick to recalling the Four Noble Truths. And that is, I think of two, and it's mirror images. So the first truth I think about is suffering. And the second truth is there's a cause for suffering. It's not just random. The opposite of the first noble truth is that there is an antidote to the tyranny of suffering. And the fourth noble truth is that that antidote is not random. It has specific causes. So the Four Noble Truths, and by the way, the last noble truth has 8 subpoints. That's called the Noble Eightfold Path, which fits under 3 headings of contemplation, morality, and concentration. And to put a finer point on it, it would be contemplation would be right aspiration and right thought. Morality, the more extensive, would be right speech, right action, right livelihood. That brings us up to 5, and the remaining 3 are right awareness or concentration, depending upon the translation that you're working with, right effort, and right mindfulness. Now, the sequence is not perfect, it's not important. But the basic thing is, we have to practice with a basic awareness of what's going on. We can't, for instance, if you just memorize my contemplations without really understanding them, they won't benefit you as much. It's been said by some people that if Buddhism was a coin, its flip side would be Taoism. So for Taoism to work, want Buddhism to work, we can't practice superstitiously. We can't practice because we're scared of our karma, and we're scared that Mata, the Lord of Death, is going to send us to Buddhist hell. That's a terrible reason to practice. We can't practice because we're treating Lao Tzu, or the earth deities, or the Buddha, or the wealth deities as Santa Claus. That's not going to give us peace. That's just going to multiply our grasping. There's nothing wrong with getting our needs met, but there's wise ways and not so wise ways. If we want to be a successful Buddhist, we have to practice because we're aware that there's the tyranny of suffering. We want freedom from that tyranny. If we want to practice as a successful Taoist, we have to play with the idea there's something greater than us. There's something greater than good and evil. That, just like Obi-Wan Kenobi said when describing the Force, there's something that surrounds us and binds us and pervades us. And it can be very benevolent. And it's the source of all. And so metaphorically, it's the mother, or the mother Tao. And if we want to be a successful Taoist, then we have to practice in a way that helps us to blend our mind and our will and our emotions and our experience to the infinite Tao, or the mother Tao. If we want to be a successful Buddhist, we need to practice in a way that blends our mind with wisdom, the wisdom of letting go, and our heart with compassion and love. It doesn't mean we don't have thoughts. It doesn't mean we don't have emotions. It means that we bring our thoughts and bring our emotions spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively into love and letting go. So really, from that point of view, Taoism and Buddhism is remarkably similar. Almost two sides of the same coin, of the same coin. Carl Gustav Jung would describe that as being a manifestation of the collective unconscious. The same basic idea came out, one through Lao Tzu, one through Gautama the monk, at approximately the same time, but in different places. And both Lao Tzu and Buddha lived to see their teachings perverted, lived to see their teachings become wrapped in with superstition, wrapped up with puja magic, offering magic, and stuff like that. There's always been two types of monks, be they Taoist or Buddhist. Monks who are just concerned primarily with shelter and clothing and food and, prestige and reputation and fame. And those who are just concerned with their progress and the progress of others. And in the Nyingma tradition of Tantric Buddhism in Tibet, there's a wonderful tradition that after a scholar goes through Sutric College and Tantric College, they do their 3-year retreat by themselves in a cave, all alone. And they go from being a scholar to being a yogi. And that takes a lot of courage to say, thanks for the rice, I'm going to go starve now. Now, there were yogis and there were yogis. Some yogis came from wealthy families and they went on a retreat with the servant, and the servant just took care of all their physical needs. Bless their hearts. Some people were just homeless yogis and, lived in depression in the earth. I'm not going to lie to you, that's kind of a scary thing to me. Although Geleg, his lineage was said to have been saved by a disabled monk named Gyalwai Wansapa. So that's pretty cool that despite his physical challenges, he not only was able to live as a monk, but he was able to save an entire monastic tradition. Pretty cool. So, in any spiritual system where there are nuns or monks whose entire livelihood is the Dharma, there's going to be a certain number who get distracted with sustenance, and get distracted with career, and get distracted with trying to control things. It's been said that the quickest way to make God laugh is tell him your plans. Same thing can be said for Buddha or Mother Tao. So if you're going to have plans, let's make them general plans, like accomplishing the path and helping others do likewise. Or to use Buddhist parlance, to accomplish 2 goals, alignment for myself and others. Taoism also teaches wisdom and compassion and the void, which is pretty cool. Now, all 3 schools of Buddhism, Theravada, Mahayana, and Tantrayana, have ritual and offerings and stuff like that. And that can be a trap. Many great saints said not so much with the ritual. It's a good thing to remind yourself of the teachings, either by silent reading or verbal chanting. But let's focus on the inner practice, the inner path. Same thing happened in Taoism, where people said, a minority said, let's be, wandering yogis, wandering hermits. Let's not focus too much on the magic. In arguably his opus magnus, Gyalpo Khyentse Rinpoche said, many times he said, let us not be like monks or lamas who spend their time and energy performing rituals for the villagers. Rather, let's just practice and help people. So, sometimes people practice what they think is Buddhist technical Tantra, but it's really Taoist. And sometimes people think they're practicing Taoist Tantra, but it's really Buddhist, and that's okay. The real thing is not whether your inner alchemy comes from Buddhism or Taoism, comes from Tibet, North India, or China. The real question is, does it work? Does it work on your confusion? Does it work on your emotions? Does it help to tame the tyranny of our craving and our hatred and the confusion that manifests as jealousy or pride? Does it help with those things? That's what really matters. Does it help us to let go? If we are generating good karma through the practice of love and wisdom, and we dedicate that good karma to the spiritual and pragmatic welfare of ourselves and others, then we've set our intention. We've fed it energy. That's all we need to do. What remains is love and letting go. Whether we do it from use Taoist nomenclature or Buddhist nomenclature. Now, I'm not going to read the minds of every single Shaolin. Based upon my knowledge of human nature, there are some with a stellar motivation, and there are some with not stellar motivation. There's some who really are lucid and understand. There's some who are thick and slow and dull. And that's with all men and women in every spiritual tradition. So, a good question. The question at the beginning was this: are the Shaolin monks practicing a blend of Buddhism and Taoism? I'll tell you what they're doing. Physical exercises, that was this problem with Skype, verbal exercises through chanting, and mental exercises through mind training. Some of those are using Taoist techniques, and some of them are using Buddhist techniques, some of them are using Sutra techniques, and some of them are using Tantra techniques. The biggest question is, are they generating peace and wisdom and love and joy? And the question even bigger than that is, when I practice their techniques, do I generate wisdom, peace, love, and joy? That's what really matters. So Patricia, please turn your microphone back on.
I'm here.
Good. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Olaf, Pat, John, if you have any more questions, this would be the ideal time to ask. Okay, no questions. Oh, John's typing something. Very exciting. No questions. Bless your heart, John. Okay, my friends, I thank you for your time and your kind attention. Allow me to remind you that the Monday evening series of weekly meditation classes begins December 2nd. If you live in the greater Los Angeles area, by all means, attend in person. You'll be glad you did. If you don't live around here, no problem. You could attend on Skype. Sadly, there's only so much room in the room I rent. There's only so much room on my Skype auditorium. So if you want to register, do it quickly. You can use the links below and go to lamajigme.com to register. If you have any questions, you can write your questions or your comments using the Facebook link below. Quick reminder, in Tibet, the monasteries do not support the monks. They don't give them food or clothing or shelter. They have to actually pay rent. And it's for the monks to find their own patrons. Sometimes they have relatives or they have relatives who support them. Sometimes there are strangers, benefactors who support them. Often they rely upon the donations of their students. That's what I do. I rely upon the donations of my students. Does that mean I don't have gratis students? Ugh, I have gratis students, don't worry. But I do have to pay rent. I do have to, buy rice. So I do, when people register for my class, either on Skype or in person, there's an opportunity for them to make a donation. So don't be surprised. I'm not asking for an exorbitant amount, and for people who can't afford but sincerely wish to attend, I allow people to be gratis students. I never turn someone away with a good heart. If you can see the value in supporting a monk, even a little bit each week, it would be helpful. As you can tell, pretty skinny fellow. I used to be rotund. What's the best diet I know? Hunger, starvation. So there you have it. During registration, you'll be given an opportunity to make a small offering. I think it's about $30 or $35. If you can't afford that, then contact me on Facebook and we'll work something out. Bottom line is I never turn anyone away who has a good heart. The irony is that most people who sign up to be a graduate student never come to class. Go figure. But that's neither here nor there. I think if your time and your kind attention, may you and yours be healthy and happy. Om Mani Padme Hum. Bye-bye now.